space, culture, and the hidden rules of global business. Hey everyone, welcome back to Crossing Borders Business Beyond Worlds. I'm Fragile, your host, former expat turned intercultural communication nerd, who once accidentally insulted a French client by putting my coffee mug on their desk. Today, we are unpacking a topic that's invisible but powerful: how space shapes every single interaction we have in global business. To help me break this down, I've got three rock stars in the room. First up, Marco, a global sales director who's closed deals in 17 countries and once had a German client walk out mid-pitch. Then there's Aisha, a cultural consultant who saved more international partnership from Koblet than she can count, including that time a US startup had to host a cultural team, building in a Finnish season. And last but never least, Dr. Eason, anthropologist and author of Hall's Hidden Languages: Space, Context, Time in Global Business. He's basically the expert of Edward Hall, the guy who invented the study of how space talks. Let's jump in. Listen, let's start with the basics. What is proxemics, and why do Hall's three parameters matter so much for anyone doing business across cultures?
Thanks for having me, Fragile. Proxemics is Edward Hall's term for the nonverbal communication of space. Think how close you stand to a colleague, whether you sit behind a desk or next to someone in a meeting, even how you arrange a conference room. Hall spent decades researching this, and he boiled down cultural differences to three core parameters: space, context, and time. Here's why this is make or break for business. Space is an invisible language. If you don't understand it, you might accidentally signal disrespect, aggression, or disinterest, all while thinking you are being friendly or professional. It's like speaking Spanish to someone who only speaks Mandarin. You're trying, but the message isn't landing.
Oh man, I've lived that Mandarin moment. Literally, last year, I was in Munich pitching a software deal to a German manufacturing firm. Just 2 days before, I'd been in Chicago with a US client. We were huddled over a laptop, shoulder to shoulder, laughing about a typo in a spreadsheet, maybe 60 inches apart. So I walked into the German meeting, sat down, led in the same way, and immediately, tricky. The lead executive, this guy, Klaus, his jaw tightened. He leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms, and started answering my questions in one-word sentence. I thought, did I mess up the numbers? Turns out, no, I messed up the space. Aisha had to explain it to me later.
Totally proxemic style Marco. How actually documented is US men typically stand 18 to 20 inches apart when talking to strangers, right? But Germans, they need even more space, sometimes 24 inches or more. For them, space is sacred. Think about German homes. Doors are always shut, hedges and fences separate yards like little fortresses. Even furniture is placed far apart to keep personal space intact. When you live in 16 inches, Klaus didn't think Marco's being collaborative. He thought, Marco is invading my bubble. He's being pushy. I had another client, a US manager, who kept leaving his office door open in Berlin to encourage teamwork. His German team thought he was unprofessional because in Germany an open door doesn't mean come chat. It means I'm not focused or I don't value privacy.
That's such a clear example. Space isn't just about being polite. It's about understanding what the arrangement means to the other culture. Ethan, How also talked about how different cultures will crowding, right? How does that play out in offices and business travel?
Great question. Paul noticed that Euro-Americans, people from the US, Canada, most of Western Europe, hate crowding. We'll stand in line with 6 inches between us, avoid eye contact on a crowded elevator, even tense up if someone's elbow brushes overs in a cafe. But many Asian cultures see crowding as normal, even a sign of connection. Take Japan. I visited Tokyo offices where 10 people work in a space that a US company would give to 3. Desks are pushed together, files are stacked nearby, and no one's stressed, because for them, that closeness signals we are a team, we're in this together. But if you're a US executive walking into that office, you might think this is chaotic. How do they get anything done? You are misreading the space message.
Oh, I saw that in Tokyo. My Japanese counterpart, Yuki, worked in this open plan office with desks practically touching. I thought I needed to give her space for our one-on-one, so I booked the private meeting room. She showed up, looked around, and said, "Is everything okay? Did the deal fall through?" I was confused until she explained that in Japan, moving to a closed room means we are having a serious, maybe bad conversation. For for brainstorming, you stay at your desk, surrounded by the team. That's the context piece Einstein was talking about. Space and context work together. The same room means two totally different things and culture.
And let's not forget territoriality. Hall's idea that we all claim and defend space, even if we don't realize it. I had a huge client crisis last year in Dubai. A US architectural firm was designing a new office for the local Emirati company. They did everything right. Big conference rooms, modern open-plan workspaces, and a fancy CEO suite with a view. But 2 weeks before the grand opening, the Emirati team walked in, saw the CEO's office, and said, "That won't work." Turns out the office didn't face Mecca. In Islamic cultures, important space, homes, mosques, and CEO office need to fit Mecca as a sign of respect to religious values, and architects had no idea. They just designed what they do in New York. They had to shift the entire floor plan 90 degrees, which caused thousands and delayed the opening. That's territoriality on a bigger scale. It's not just my desk. It's our cultural values tied to this space.
That's massive mistake. all because they didn't connect space to cultural values. Listen, let's circle back to Hall's three parameters: space, context, and time. We've talked about space and context, but how does time tie into this? Can you give me an example?
Absolutely. Time and space are like two sides of a coin. Let's take monochronic cultures. In the US, Germany, Switzerland, these cultures value schedules. Meetings start on time, end on time, and happen in specific places. If you book a conference room for 2 p.m. in Berlin, that room is your territory for that hour. No one will walk in unannounced, and if you run over, people will get annoyed because it disrupts their next schedule. Now, polychronic cultures like Brazil, Mexico, Indonesia see time as more flexible, and space follows that. I once attended a business meeting in Sao Paulo where we started in a conference room, then moved to a cafe down the street because the room was better, then ended up on a park bench. The Brazilians saw this as normal. We are building trust, so the space doesn't matter as much as the conversation. But the US team with me was panicking. We didn't book the cafe. We are off schedule. They were stuck in monochronic spacetime, while the Brazilians were in polychronic mode.
I've had exact experiences. I was in Rio negotiating a distribution deal. We had a 10 a.m. meeting in their office, but when I got there, the team was finishing up a call with another client. They said, "Concept will be 15 minutes." So I sit in their waiting area. But after 20 minutes, I started checking my watch. The CEO noticed and said, "Marco, relax. We're here to talk, not rest." Later, he told me that in Brazil, making someone wait a little isn't rude. It means we are prioritizing the current conversation and we will give you our full attention when we are ready. The space and time were both sending a message about context. Trust matters more than schedule.
That's such a good point. These parameters don't work in isolation. Isha, you mentioned that finish to the story earlier. Let's dive into that. It sounds wild, but it's a perfect example of how space can contradict what we expect.
Oh, it's a doozy. A US startup wanted to build team cohesion with their Finnish partners, so they booked a group sauna for a cultural bonding session. They thought, saunas are relaxing. We'll chat, get to know each other. But when they walked in, the Finns were horrified. Here's the thing. Finns take saunas extremely seriously. It's a sacred space, like a church. But with heat, they go to sauna to contemplate, not to talk shop. And while nudity is normal, the US team was making jokes about it, trying to pitch ideas, and the Finns just shut down. The startups thought they were being cross-cultural, but they didn't understand the context of the space. Later, the Finnish said it felt like they were trying to sell to us in our living room, disrespectfully.
That's housework in action. The sauna is a space with strong context. Things know the unspoken rules. Be quiet. Respect the privacy. Focus on health, not business. The US team missed that context because they were using their own cultural lens. Sauna equals to casual hangout. It's not that one culture is right, it's that they were speaking different spatial languages.
So let's wrap this up with practical advice. For our listeners who are about to jump into a cross-cultural business meeting, what's one thing they can do to avoid a proxemics fail? Marco, you've been there. What's your tip?
Observe first. Act second. When you walk into a meeting room, look around. Are people standing far apart or close? Are doors open or closed? Do they lean in when talking or sit back? Mirror that. In Munich, after my first mistake, I watched Klaus and his team. They sat 2 feet apart, leaned back, kept their hands on the table. So I adjusted, sat back, kept my distance, didn't lean in until they did. By the end of the meeting, Klaus was laughing. We closed the deal.
Ask questions. It's not rude to say, is this seating arrangement comfortable for you, or do you prefer to talk here or in a different space? Most people appreciate the effort to understand. I had a client in Seoul who asked their current partner, should we use the conference room or talk at our desks? The partner said desks are better. Conference rooms feel too formal. That small question avoided a mishap and built trust.
Go back to Hall's 3 parameters. Before any meeting, ask yourself, first, how does this culture view space? For example, personal distance, crowding, territoriality. Second, what's the context? Is this space for formal talks or casual brainstorming? Third, how does time tie in? A little research goes a long way. Even 10 minutes of reading about a culture's spatial norms can save you from a costly mistake.
That's golden. So, to recap, space isn't just empty room, it's languages. How three parameters are the dictionary. And if you learn to speak the languages, you are not just avoiding mistakes, you are building connections. Because when someone sees you respect their spatial norms, they think, this person gets me, I can trust them.
Exactly. Business is about relationships, and relationships start with understanding.
And understanding starts with noticing the invisible stuff like space.
Paul said, space speaks. It's up to us to listen.
Well said. Thank you all. This was such a fun, eye-opening conversation. To our listeners, next time you are in a cross-cultural meeting, today take 30 seconds to look around, notice the space. It might just be the key to your next big win. Thanks for listening to Cross Borders Business Beyond Work. If you love this episode, hit subscribe, leave a review, and share your own cross-cultural space fails on your social media. We love to hear them. And join us next week when we are talking about how time messes up global deadlines. Till then,